Welcome back to Draft Genius, and in this video, we're going to take a look at Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State. To start, we're going to look at his measurables. According to North Dakota State's website, Trey Lance is listed at 6'3" and weighs 221 pounds. Pretty good numbers for a quarterback. Nothing spectacular in the 6'4", 6'5" range, but not on the small side either. Not a 6 foot, not a 5'10" type guy where we have to worry about the height conversation. Pretty standard, pretty average measurables for a quarterback. Based on the eye test, he looks really well put together, in my opinion. He has a similar body to Justin Fields. I know their height and weight measurements are similar as well, but just looking at how Trey Lance is put together, I think is really comparable to Justin Fields in that way. So overall, good measurables, no issues, no concerns about that part of his game. Moving on to what he did in his career at North Dakota State. Now Trey Lance, he's a 1-year starter guy. He's that guy. He's only really started one season of college football, and he did that as a freshman. Last season, played all 16 games for North Dakota State, came on the scene, put up some really big numbers, and only had one opportunity to go out there in 2020 and show what he could do in their game on October 3rd against Central Arkansas, which was a game that Trey Lance didn't look too good. It's a little bit rusty, and I don't think it was an overall good outing for him. So in total, 17 total starts. So compared to other top quarterbacks coming out in this draft, Trey Lance is a guy with probably the least amount of experience, but the experience that he does have in his one season and one game, what he put on film was tremendous. The statistical output was tremendous. He was prolific as a passer and prolific as a runner. And like I said before, had one opportunity this season. Wasn't that great of an outing. He finished 15 of 30, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick against Central Arkansas on October 3rd. And like I said, overall, he just looked a little bit rusty. Just looked like he wasn't on. He and his receivers weren't on the same page. Just a lot of bad tape out there. Honestly think he should not have played that game, but it is what it is. Freshman year, though, 2,786 yards, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and that was the big number that everybody was talking about. He didn't turn the ball over at all during his freshman season. And, I mean, he was dynamic as both a passer and a runner. He ran for 1,100 yards as well and had 14 rushing touchdowns. So just tremendous statistical output, both as a passer and as a rusher, as a freshman, leading North Dakota State to a national championship. Trey Lance, he's pretty well decorated. Won the Walter Payton Award, which is the top offensive player in FCS football. He won that last year as a freshman. He also won the Jerry Rice Award, which is given to the top freshman in FCS. He won that award as well. 2-time FCS champion, 1-time as a starter, as the starting quarterback. Missouri Valley Football Conference Offensive Player of the Year, and he was an FCS All-American. So he's pretty well decorated for just having one season and 17 total games under his belt. So let's move on to his skill set. And overall, as a passer, I think Trey Lance is very good, really good mechanics, plus arm strength. All right, he has a pretty strong right arm, throws the ball with really good velocity at all 3 levels as well. So I don't think his arm strength is going to be an issue. In my opinion, I think he has a plus arm. Also pretty accurate as well, not only statistically, but also just watching him on a play-to-play basis. Puts the ball in good spots. Not going to have too many issues with him missing his target consistently. So good accuracy from Trey Lance as well. Good arm strength and velocity. I think both of those are skills of his that should be able to translate to the next level. And like I said before, he didn't throw any interceptions last season. The worst thing you can do as a quarterback is to give the other team opportunities. And the easiest way to do that is to throw interceptions and turn the ball over. Trey Lance didn't turn the ball over at all, and I think that's something that has to be recognized. Now, understandably, he plays at North Dakota State. North Dakota State is the most dominant team in FCS football. They're the Alabama of FCS football. So they have all the talent on the offensive line. They have talented guys in the backfield. They have talented guys out wide at receiver. So they have all the advantages. So I'm not saying that Trey Lance didn't have that in his back pocket. You know, the power of the North Dakota State machine. They are that. They are a machine out there in North Dakota State. But at the same time, he didn't do anything on his end to put those guys in bad positions offensively. Didn't give the other team opportunities by turning the ball over, and I think that's something that deserves to be talked about when we evaluate the type of quarterback Trey Lance is. The next thing is his athleticism. As I've mentioned before, talking about other quarterbacks, the league is moving towards the more athletic, the more dynamic style of quarterback. No longer is it going to be acceptable for you to just be a pocket guy, sit in the pocket all day, expecting to be protected for 10 seconds, and you sit back there and just pick teams apart. No, you're going to have to move out of the pocket. Defenses are more talented. Defensive linemen are more athletic, and there's a priority on getting to the quarterback in the NFL. So, in turn, the quarterbacks have to be able to keep plays alive. They have to be able to get out of the pocket. And I think Trey Lance is a guy that can do that, similarly to Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. Also, Trevor Lawrence, really good athlete as well. I think Trey Lance falls in that category with those guys. He can do all the stuff on the move, throwing the ball on the move, getting outside of the pocket, extending plays, scrambling to pick up extra yards. He can do all that with relative ease. That shouldn't be too much of an issue for him. The thing I like about him a lot is the fact that he's a serious threat in the quarterback run game. And I think he might be even more so than Justin Fields or even more so than Trevor Lawrence. I know those guys were utilized a lot in their team's run game, but when I watch Trey Lance, he just has a natural feel when he has the ball in his hands as a runner. Like I said before, he's just as big as Justin Fields. He's also a tough runner too. He wasn't sliding, getting down on the ground all of the time. He was lowering his shoulder. He was taking some hits, and he was picking up some tough yards when you watch him on film. So Trey Lance, he has a natural feel for the run game. He's a tough runner. He's big. He's strong. And I think that's something that's a big plus when you look at Trey Lance as a prospect. Now, level of competition. Now, this isn't a Zach Wilson situation where, he's playing at BYU. He's still playing FBS football, even though it's a lower tier, lower level of that FBS football. Now, Trey Lance is playing at the FCS level. That's an even lower level, and the competition level is not as good, no matter how you want to cut it. So I'm sure there will be questions about that, and I think it does matter to a certain extent. But typically when I'm evaluating players, I'm looking at skill sets and how that skill set can translate to the next level. Level of competition does have to be considered, because some of the things that Trey Lance was out there doing, maybe he doesn't do those things if he's playing against an Alabama, or if he's playing against Notre Dame, or playing against Clemson, teams like that. If he's playing that competition on a weekly basis, does he look like the same type of athlete out there? I had those same questions about Zach Wilson as well, but it's to an even greater extent because of where Trey Lance is playing, and given the fact that North Dakota State is the cream of the crop in FCS football, you could have similar conversations that you would about a Mac Jones when it comes to level of talent and the amount of talent that those quarterbacks have around them. So there's going to be those questions, but at the end of the day, Trey Lance has a really good skill set, put some good things on film. There are some concerns here and there, but overall, as a prospect, I think he should and deserves to be mentioned as one of the top guys coming out in this draft. Now, Trey Lance, like I said before, had that one game in 2020 to go out there and show what he could do. And in that game, I don't think he looked that great. I thought there were misses. I thought there were also drop passes, but overall, he just looked rusty. He didn't look in sync with the receivers. I'm not sure if North Dakota State lost some receivers this past season, but the guys that he was out there throwing to, they just didn't look like they were on the same page. And for that to be our last image of you on the field, it's a really bad one. So I wouldn't be shocked if teams kind of fell off of him because of that game against Central Arkansas on October 3rd. But on the flip side, what he was able to go out there and do as a freshman in 2019 was tremendous, and nobody can take that away from him. And that's why prior to the season starting, there was a real debate about whether or not he was quarterback 1 or at least quarterback 2 between him and Justin Fields. So there was a serious conversation being had about that. But what he put out there on film his freshman season was tremendous. He has a skill set that matches what teams are looking for in the NFL. If I had to compare him to any player, the one guy that popped up in my mind when I watched Trey Lance on film was Jordan Love. I think he's really similar to Jordan Love, who was drafted by the Green Bay Packers last season. I think they're similar mechanically. I think their demeanor and movement skills within the pocket and just their overall athleticism is very similar. Now, Jordan Love wasn't a guy that had a lot of quarterback design runs for him like Trey Lance did, but when you see those guys get out of the pocket, when you see those guys scramble, they're really similar athletes. Jordan Love is a slightly bigger player, but overall they look really similar as far as their makeup and with certain aspects of their game. If I had to make a prediction on where I think Trey Lance will be taken, I think he'll be the 4th quarterback taken after Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. He'll be that next guy. He could potentially drop to the 5th quarterback if a team is willing to go up and take Mac Jones ahead of him. But I say all of that because of the game that he put out there, the 1-game sample he had in 2020, while the rest of those top guys, they had at least a half of a season to go out there and put some more tape on film. They all did a really good job. But Trey Lance had a 1-game sample, and that 1-game sample wasn't good. So I think he'll go 4th. He'll be the 4th quarterback taken at best, and could potentially get usurped by Mac Jones coming up to take that 4th spot if a team were willing to do that. Overall, I think he's a good prospect, though, and if he lands in the right situation, say he lands on a team with a quarterback that's established and he can be a backup for a couple of years, similar to the situation Jordan Love is in Green Bay. If Trey Lance can find a situation like that, I think it would be pretty good for him. But overall, I think he has the talent and the skill set to be a successful quarterback at the next level.